Hey everyone, I want you to open your book to page 812, and we're going to continue our conversation about solving systems, but we're going to solve them with this new powerful tool called the matrix. Now, you already saw that little clip of the guest speaker. I copied his stuff on what a matrix is. It's a way to organize a lot of numbers. Second question he didn't answer is, what do they mean? And in mathematics, matrices can symbolize many different things. They can symbolize simple stuff like what we're doing with systems of linear equations, but they can also symbolize memory locations inside of computers. They can symbolize pixels on a computer screen. They can symbolize forces in designing a bridge. I mean, there's a whole class that we have at this college devoted to studying only matrices. So it's a big topic. Now, we're not going to do any adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing matrices. We're just going to learn one thing. How do you take a system of equations and turn it into a matrix? Because if we can make it into a matrix, then we can have the calculator solve the matrix and solve the system. So, let's get started. I'm looking down here at example 1, and it spans over 2 pages here. Bottom of page 812 and the top of page 813. Now we have a system. This is a system of 2 equations, 2 unknowns. That's what we mean by 2 by 2. It has unknowns x and y. That's our 2 unknowns. But it also has 2 equations, the first equation and the second equation. Now, we can make a system of the coefficients only. Now, notice it's just the numbers. There's the 3, the 4, and the negative 2. That's the coefficient numbers in that system. However, the coefficient matrix is not going to be that useful for us. In a higher level matrix algebra course, you would use this, but for us, we're not going to do the coefficient matrices. We're going to be using the augmented matrix. So we always write the organization of numbers with these square brackets. If you want to make a matrix, you just strip out all the numbers. There's no x, there's no y, there's no equals, just numbers only. So I'm going to pull out all these numbers, like the 3. I'm going to pull out the 4. And I'm going to pull out the 7. That's all I did. So I just made a list of numbers. Over here, I'm going to pull out the 4. On this one, I'm pulling out the negative 2. Keep the sign with the number, and then the 5. And that is called the augmented matrix. And you can see that's the same one the book had down there. We're just learning how to turn equations into a matrix. Later, we'll learn how to solve the matrix. But right now, your job is to take an equation and make a matrix, and vice versa. Take a matrix and make the equation. So we're going to learn both of these here. All right, here's another example. So, I want you to notice in this one we have a 3 by 3 system. That means 3 equations and 3 unknowns. So the unknowns are x, y, and z. And of course we have 3 equations, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to turn this into a matrix. Now, notice though, the second one has no z. So, in your mind, you can think of it as 0, z. On this third one, notice there is no y. You could think of it as 0y. So when we're pulling out the coefficients, if the variable is missing, it's understood that the coefficient has a 0 coefficient. So I'm going to make the augmented matrix. That means all of the coefficients and the answers to the equation. So on this first one, it's going to be 3, -1, -1, 0. On this second one, wait, x doesn't have a coefficient. What's the understood coefficient? What's multiplying x? If it's not there, it's understood 1 times x. Same with y. And there is no z. So I'm going to put a 0 and the 5. And then the third equation, 2 multiplies x. There is no y's. -3 multiplies the z's, and the answer is 2. That's my augmented matrix. And you can see that's the same one the book created. Okay, now I want you to do one. So you got to make yourself think. This is growth mindset. You make yourself solve the problem. Don't wait for me. Pause the computer now, and I want you to complete the matrix for this problem at the bottom of page 813. Pause now and do it. Okay, welcome back. I hope you did it. You've got to make yourself think. You've got to try this. Don't let yourself just be passive here. Don't wait for me. Every time you get a chance, do your own thinking. So, but let's check what you did. Here's the first equation, and I'm going to take out the 4. That's the x multiplier. The -3 is the y multiplier, and 11 is the answer. And I'm going to go to the second equation. 3 is the x multiplier, 2 is the y multiplier, and 4 is the answer. That is the augmented matrix you should have gotten. If you didn't get it, I want you to pause and analyze what went wrong and try to find and discover your mistake and learn from it. All right, here's another system. This one has 3 by 3. That means 3 equations and 3 unknowns. And the book didn't print it out very well, but it should have these square brackets around it to show it's a matrix. Now, each of these numbers is a multiplier. These are x multipliers, x multipliers, y multipliers, and z multipliers, and these are answers. And you can see that if we took and made that first equation, it's going to be 1 times x. Now you don't have to write 1. -3y minus 5z. That's the first equation, equaling to -2. Second equation, 2x minus 5y plus 4z equals 5. And last equation, -3x plus 5y plus 4z equals 6. And you can kind of compare. They did the work for us. But I want you to pause again and create the equation for this next system. Okay, welcome back. If we were to make an equations out of this, we would have 1, 2, 3 equations for each row. And so we should have 1x. Now, I'm not going to write the multiplier of 1, but -1y, same with this, and plus z equals 5. Then we have 2x minus y plus 3z equals 1. And lastly, there's no x's. So I'm not going to write x. 0 times x is 0. But I do have 1y plus 1z. 1 times z equals -9. That's the system of equations that you should have gotten for this problem. Okay, so let's see. Now, the next step is typing these into the calculator and solving with the calculator. Now, I have a YouTube video on that, and so the next thing I'm going to do is refer you to the YouTube video on how to use the calculator to solve this. That's my timer, so I'm out of time with this YouTube. More will come.